Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me today on our Sigma Sunday. I want to ask you a question and I want you to think about it for a second. How much do difficult conversations bother you? How much do you avoid them? Think about it for a second. And who am I? Why does this matter? So my name is Rebecca Sonnenberg. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I'm here to help give some tips and some tricks on how to hopefully be a better boss, better entrepreneur, better leader. When we talk about difficult conversations, I want to make sure that we're really clear too on the difference between conflict and conversations. This gets really muddled and really mixed up together, and so people are like, oh, I hate conflict, so they completely avoid conversations. These do not have to be the same thing, and they're not the same thing. You can have a conversation with somebody and disagree. Shockingly, I know, but you can disagree and just say, we don't have to agree. We just may see things differently and we may never meet eye to eye on this. Can it move things? Can it change things? Yes. Does it have to be a knockdown drag out where I try to pull you over to my side, which is more of a confrontation? That's more of like, I'm really trying to get you to believe this and I'm really wanting you to change the way you think about things. Sometimes in an aggressive way, not always, doesn't always have to be that way. Not every conversation will lead to conflict. Not every conflict will end in a conversation. But if you can start to look at how do we have difficult conversations and pull away the word conflict to see if that helps. I know that when I very first became a leader and an entrepreneur, difficult conversations were not my favorite and I would shy away from them. Trying to be nice, trying to be a people pleaser, and it always bit me in the ass, literally every time. I'm going to say this with a lot of love and kindness, and a lot of you are probably not going to like it, and that's okay. We're having a conversation. Doesn't mean we have to agree. We can disagree. But women have a tendency when we bring to the table a conversation, a lot of times we bring a lot of emotion, which can then lead to conflict. You have to take the emotion out of difficult conversations, especially in leadership roles. The minute you bring in the emotion, everything's done. Everything's lost. Now it's just becoming defensive versus trying to persuade versus just arguing, and it becomes gross and it's ugly and it's not helpful. When you have to have difficult conversations with someone, you have to have them. I have never had a moment in this business where I've been like, oh, I made it a whole year and I haven't had to have a difficult conversation. It's highly unlikely. Is it my favorite thing? No. Do I love a good conflict? Yes. But I can make those different and I can still lean into how different those can be. When I need to have a difficult conversation, the best thing for me personally is I like to sit down and write down what it is that I'm trying to get across to the person that I'm going to have this conversation with. Because again, then I can go back and look, did I put a lot of emotion into it? Which I do have a tendency to do. I'm an emotional human being. I'm very much lead with my heart. And I can recognize that, which is why I can also say, I know how much that doesn't help. I watch men a lot of times have these difficult conversations. There's no emotion. It's just, this is the facts. This isn't working. See you later. That's it. And although sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't, at the end of the day, it really is beneficial. The other big thing is making sure that when you're having these difficult conversations, you're taking out anything that's personal, especially about you to you. You don't want to make these conversations, it's not personal. At the end of the day, it's business. We recently had to have a really difficult conversation with a tenant in one of our buildings. And although I very much wanted to be kind and loving and, oh my gosh, let's figure this out together, at the end of the day, it just wasn't working. It's business. This doesn't work, so we have to do this. If you cannot do that, this isn't the place for you, period. So you have to really take a step back and write these things down so that you can look and say, okay, these are the facts. This is what I know. This is what has to get done. It doesn't have to be personal. It doesn't have to have any emotion in it. It's just business. The other thing is that you want to practice sometimes, right? If difficult conversations and even any type of conflict makes you uncomfortable, it's a good idea to practice this with somebody who loves you, who can say, hey, I notice that when you're doing this, you're starting to pull back on what you know is true and start leaning into what you think I need, which is leading you back into the problem you were already in. You definitely want to do this with somebody you love and trust, or somebody that you know has your back, because it's not easy, and you do have to learn how to have these difficult conversations because they are going to happen. So my biggest thing though, my biggest takeaway is take out the emotion, write it down, really look at it and really decide. And you can also, when you're having these difficult conversations, ahead of time think, where can I give a little? Where can I say, okay, yes, we need to do this, but we can wiggle a little here, or there's no going back. This is exactly how this has to be. One of the other things is that I think anytime you're having a difficult conversation and it starts to feel like the person is becoming defensive, so it's starting to feel like you're like panicking almost, you just take a deep breath and just say, tell me what it is about this that you're hearing or what you're not hearing. Because a lot of times when people become defensive, they don't hear anything you're saying at all, or they completely mishear you, which then becomes an issue of just tit for tat, back and forth. That's not going to help either, right? Because now there's feelings involved in it. We got to remove that. So help me to hear you so that I can reiterate what I'm actually saying to you without it feeling like I'm attacking you. We're just talking about business. This has to happen or this can't happen anymore. I know difficult conversations are not fun. They're not easy, but they're never going to go away. And if you go into it knowing we're just talking, we're not going to fight to the death. This isn't a gladiator situation. We're talking, but we're having to do business at the same time. So remove the emotion, go into it with facts, go into it with knowing what you're trying to achieve, leave everything else at the door. It's not worth it, I promise. Okay? So please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And I would love to hear from you guys. Even if you don't agree with me, that's okay. You can tell me. You can tell me to kick rocks with open-toed shoes. I'm still happy to hear it. Happy to hear from you guys. I hope that this helps a little bit. I hope it helps you to lean into a little bit of these kind of crappy conversations that we have to have sometimes. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I can't wait to see you until next week. Bye.